the deal that I was talking to you about, whatever it was, 3 years ago, when I was saying on the show that they had a deal worked out, a peace deal worked out in the first few months of the war in 22, and Boris Johnson went and killed the peace deal on behalf of the West to make sure this war kept going. But the deal that was in pencil, not pen, that Boris Johnson killed, was essentially recognition of the annexation of Crimea. It was, at the time, it wasn't annexation of the Donbass region. It was like independence for the Donbass region. And then the agreement that the rest of Ukraine would not join NATO. That was the deal that they had worked out. And look at where we are now. Now, the deal that they're even talking about, even as Donald Trump goes, there's going to be some land swaps and all this. Okay, well, what's he talking? The deal right now that is the best case scenario that we're hoping we could get is that Vladimir Putin obviously keeps Crimea, keeps the entire Donbass region, gets a corridor from the south into Crimea, and the rest of Ukraine doesn't join NATO. So we have the same deal, just a little bit more in the Russians' favor, 3 years later, with hundreds of thousands of people having died in that process, just to get back to not as good a deal as they had in 22. And so,
and if they don't sign that,
it'll keep going, which I think it's probably going to.
They're enlisting people as old as 60 now.
Yeah, and they have been for like a full year at least. Throwing people up there. And the thing that's really changed, the reason why the Europeans and Zelensky and they're at least pretending to come to the negotiation table right now, which they don't say, but this is the truth, is that support for the war amongst Ukrainians has collapsed. I mean, not like gone down by a few points. It's collapsed. There was just a piece in this the other day. It was Gallup, I believe. Where they had their latest poll. Super majorities of the Ukrainian people, 70% around, want an immediate end to the war with negotiations on land swap. Like let's settle it however we got to settle it. They don't. I remember for the first 2 years of the thing, everybody who I argued with about the war in Ukraine, their talking point would always be, the Ukrainian people want to fight. And who are you, Dave, to tell them that they don't have a right to defend themselves? And then I would respond by saying, like, yes, it's true the Ukrainian people want to fight, but like, might that have something to do with the blank check that they've received from the world and the backup of the entire world? It's a different proposition to go like, do you want to fight if John Jones is at your back and goes, I got your back, dude, let's go fuck these guys up. You're like, hell yeah, I want to fight. But then John Jones leaves, I might be like, let's talk about this, but now the Ukrainian people don't want to fight. And by the way, I never believed any of that because I don't, I have my own libertarian views on things. And I'm like, if you're telling me that people want to fight, like, well, why do you got to conscript an army then? Like if they want to fight so bad, why you got to put a gun to their head and force them to the front line?
Kidnap people.
Yeah, you could just make it a voluntary force and then we'll find out real quick who wants to fight. But the point is now that even the Ukrainians don't want to fight over this stuff anymore. So there's just no justification for it. So now they move to phase B, which is essentially to pretend like they're negotiating, but putting all types of poison pills in the deal so that the other side won't take it. This is what they did with Iran, too. This is why we got into that 12-day war, as they're calling it now. But, it's like you put things into I was just reading the other day. It was on Axios. There's reports that Zelensky and the Europeans are like open to land swaps as long as there's, in their words, in the Axios piece, Article 5 like security guarantees. So in other words, the rest of Ukraine's in NATO, which is the thing that caused the whole conflict to begin with.
Oh,
so
God.
like, yeah, and
that's what that means, Article 5?
Article 5 is the article in NATO, in the NATO agreement that says that like, it says that like if one of the countries is attacked, like all the countries have to join together to help. It doesn't exactly say you got to go to war over it, but it's like you have to help in the effort if they're attacked. So essentially, that's what they're trying to ask now, which is, but if you think about it, right, it's designed to incentivize Putin to keep the war going. Because if you're telling Vladimir Putin, let's just say, which it's not exactly clear that he would even take the deal that I just laid out before, but I know that it's been reported that it was being signaled that he might be open to that deal. I get the Donbass region. He's got still, like the Donbass region is Donetsk and Luhansk. And in Luhansk, I think, as of right now, I think the Russians control like 75% of it. They got all of Donetsk, they got most of Luhansk, but there's still Ukrainians controlling part of it. And then he's controlling part of these territories in the south. So this is what Trump means when he says the land swaps, meaning essentially you get out of the Donbass region, give me that, and I'll give you back. The land swaps are Putin taking what he wants and leaving you the rest. But if you're going to tell Vladimir Putin, who fought this entire war over Ukrainian entry into NATO being his red line, basically in the middle of the, or not in the middle of, as the war is potentially wrapping up, you're going to tell him, hey, whatever territory you don't take here will be a part of NATO. Well, what does that incentivize him to do? Take more of it then. Then why would you stop and give the rest of it up? And it does seem to me like that is clearly, at least from the Europeans, that is clearly the motivation of all of this, is to present something. It's you know, they do have their chess war moves. And so you present something that you know the other side can't agree to. And then when they don't agree to it, you go, look, we tried to negotiate and he just wouldn't take us up on this. And so what can you do?